Let me begin with thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're not the team captains, but you are a very, very important feature of every team that participates in the race. And it's important that you hear this information as direct as possible from me to you, and hopefully from you to the other drivers, the other observers that'll be in that follow vehicle that follow your portion of the race. I've been asked many times if this meeting were mandatory. And as I just told Tony, I said, if I could make it mandatory, I would. Really, the information needs to be heard as direct as possible from me, having experienced and done this race all these years, to you, the persons that are going to be in that follow vehicle, to all the 264 teams that we have in the race. But because we have teams coming from so far away and so many distant places, unfortunately that becomes an impossible task. This meeting will be conducted again for a much larger crowd, hopefully everyone, in Las Vegas or in Baker. It is important that you attend those meetings as well. They will not be as long as this and probably not quite as direct as I can be in getting this information to you, but it will be important to be there as well because that's where you're going to get all of the last minute updates and changes that occur even in this last few weeks, or in this case only days before this race. Things will still change. Information on the website changes daily, and I encourage you to look at that website and look for those updates and changes. Ladies and gentlemen, you're here for one reason only, the safety of the runner. Tony Adler here in a few minutes is going to talk to you in the room that are drivers, and I'll get into the second half of this and talk to those of you in here that are the observers. Many years ago, we eliminated the need for you to be a timer. And if you've been in this race a long time, then you know that at one time, the passenger in the follow vehicle was a timer. That's not needed anymore. It's not your job. You don't have to do that. But you are the observer, and probably a much more important job than timing that individual running is to observe them. From the 2012 race, and the reason you're here today, and the reason we had this meeting last year, was to do all that we possibly can to eliminate injury. While there's probably nothing we can do to 100% of the time eliminate that, but we do have to make every effort to cut that problem down. There is a massive presence of medical assistance on the race course. You are 200 miles from here to get to Baker. It's another 25 miles just to get to the starting line. But once you're at that starting line, all things, unless you brought them with you, all things like this can be turned off. They're of no value. Your cell phone will not work once you leave the town of Baker. And once you arrive at the starting line and along that race course, this becomes useless. Dialing 911 on your cell phone will get you nothing. And that presence out there that we bring with us is every attempt to get medical help to those that need it as quick as we can. Our medical director reported 793 people treated last year at the race. There are 7,000 runners in the race. Virtually about 10%. Of those 793, 32 went to the hospital. The lion's share of those 32 went to the Pahrump Community Hospital, Pahrump Valley Community Hospital. I met with the hospital this last couple of weeks, took a tour of their ER room, met their doctors, met the nurses. They are ready for patients. I'm saying they don't need any patients. No one should go to that hospital. But I'm foolish to say that because I know that it will happen. But we're here today to try to do everything possible to mitigate anyone having to go to the hospital, and if they do, for a very short stay. And again, if you ever personally saw someone getting an IV administered, you would be the last person to say, "I'll take one too." Drinking this water is a heck of a lot easier than taking an IV. The IV is fast, no doubt about it. You're unconscious, you don't feel anything. Everybody around you will certainly wince when they stick you with that IV needle. But you'll be just a happy lark laying there unconscious. Drink the water. If it were possible, again, to make it mandatory and take roll, then it'd be just like being at work. What happens when you get that red L? Well, do they still do that? I don't even know if they do that anymore. I recall getting one of those and getting chewed out by some lieutenant. I was never late again. But we can't take roll. It's impossible. We can only ask that everybody be here to try to hear this information as direct as we can make it. Now, how many of you are brand new to driving or brand new to being the observer? Raise your hands. Okay. Most of you then are veterans of having done this. How many of you had a down runner last year? Okay. And no matter how experienced you are at this, it is still a scary experience when that runner finally does go down. And it rattles you, and believe you me, for the people in the follow vehicle all around you, they get a bit rattled as well. But we'll go over here as many of the aspects as possible. You're not doctors, EMTs, nurses, or have medical experience, but you are cops. And so therefore this should not rattle you too much, but it still is a scary experience to see it happen. It is not necessary. I'll introduce Tony here in just a minute, but I want to make one point really clear. If it were possible to have all 7,000 runners, the runners now, in one place at one time, I would tell them what I'm going to tell you. It is their responsibility not to have a problem out there. Number one, their job. They know themselves how hard they can push themselves in whatever the weather conditions allow. To fail to do that properly is really their own fault. You're there to do other things to try to mitigate it and back it up, but it's really their fault if they have a problem. They've done something wrong. And it's a point I can't make loud enough or clear enough. Again, I wish I could get all 7,000 runners, because I'd tell them, if you had that problem, that is your fault. You've done something wrong. Not the follow vehicle, not the crew out there. You yourself first. Next comes other people in line, but really theirs to begin with. Now, let me introduce Tony. Tony has been with me for a number of years now. Conducts the meeting that will be held in Las Vegas, and his discussion is those of the follow vehicle drivers.
Okay, good morning everybody. Like Chuck said, I've been around about 20 years or so. Chuck kind of kids me on my accent, originally from South Africa. I just can't lose it after 36 years. Just a quick introduction on how many teams we have running this year. We're down just a few teams. Right now we're at 264 teams. Last year I think we started at 271. A couple of teams of note. We've got a team coming out from Germany, Australia, and a bunch of teams from Canada. Those are the international teams. And then most of the other teams are from the West Coast. Obviously Texas comes out. So 264 as it stands right now. On the table, I put out a bunch of flyers, and we'll get to those that I want to talk about in a minute. One of the flyers is Chuck and I both sit on a board for the United States Police and Fire Championships, and this year we're putting on a motorcycle event. It's a ride that we've been trying to benefit Special Olympics. So if you would, please take this back to your station and post it up or have it ready in the roll call, and we would appreciate it. Okay, what I'm going to talk about is just the nuts and bolts of where to be, the who, when, what, why, where, and how type of thing, as far as the follow vehicle driver is concerned. And right off the bat, we'll start off, where does the follow vehicle have to be? Well, your first responsibility is to be at the follow vehicle check-in location. That follow vehicle check-in location is approximately 21 miles north of the high school. 21 miles north of the high school of Baker. And you need to be there 1 hour prior to your start for your flight. Now the flights have been made. And just by a raise of hands, how many of you do not know what time your start is? Okay, good. Looks like everyone has been informed. But I want to put an emphasis on this, is that those times do change. So we didn't want to get it published and put out today, just in case the times change. So if there is a change, the team captain will notify you. I don't want to give you the times right now, and then all of a sudden, your times change and you didn't know about it. So just keep an eye open, or check the website for changes. Changes on the start times will occur up to the Wednesday before the race. So keep an eye on that website. As far as the follow vehicle check-in, like I say, 1 hour prior to your start. If you in the follow vehicle do not show up to that follow vehicle check-in area, your runner will be held at the start line until you do get there. And this has happened quite a bit in the past. For some reason, the follow vehicle went the long way around the start line. They went through Perot and didn't take the time to go, or didn't want to go through Baker for some reason. And so they ended up missing the follow vehicle check-in. And so we had to hold up the runner and make other arrangements for them. In some cases, we delayed their start by an hour, so we could get in the proper position. The big thing is we do not want to let the runner run by himself out there. He has to have a follow vehicle behind him. So remember, 1 hour prior to your start, you need to be at that follow vehicle check-in. When you go to the check-in, you're probably going to go through Baker. This is going to be your last chance to check everything on that vehicle. As far as your signs, make sure your lights are working, your amber lights, everything's posted on that on the vehicle itself. Because once you go out to the follow vehicle check-in area, there's nothing out there to help correct if, say, you blow a fuse, or the lights don't work, or something happens to you. That has to be done in Baker. So make sure everything is working in Baker before you head out to that follow vehicle check-in. That includes gassing up the vehicle, because the next gas station would be in the town of Shoshone, and it's probably the gas prices there are going to be astronomical. So make sure everything's working and the vehicle's gassed up. Baker High School, they've been very good to us over the years. And part of their high school students, or their students, sit out at Baker High and sell miscellaneous items. They have batteries, they have water, they have miscellaneous supplies, toilet paper, that kind of stuff. So if you could help them out and purchase some of the items you may need at the high school, they would appreciate it. Okay, now the when. When do you need to check in? Like I say, 1 hour prior to your start. Well, if you do the backtracking from Vegas down to Baker is 90 minutes, another 21 miles out to the follow vehicle check-in, plus all the other time that you have to do, or the stuff that you have to do in Baker, you've got to give yourself ample time to make sure that you get there at the required time. So we would urge you to double your estimated time getting to that location. Okay? I just came back from Las Vegas this weekend, and leaving took me from Vegas to the state line about 2 hours because of the traffic delay. Because the lanes merge into one lane over there, and sometimes it's very difficult. So give yourself plenty of time. Don't be late to that follow vehicle check-in. Okay, when you get to the follow vehicle check-in, on the table here, and I've pasted out on a couple of the tables, are the follow vehicle checklist. And it kind of gives you an idea of what you need to have done prior to getting to the follow vehicle check-in. When you get there, have all those items ready to go because your vehicle will be inspected. They'll come do the mandatory checks and you'll hand them that form that says follow vehicle checklist and you'll be good to go. If you haven't filled it out, they will have forms there for you and they will check it and rewrite the form for you. But if you can make it easier for them, print it out from the website, have everything checked off,